can think of the word. Let me close the window. Cut. I wanted to share some of the hobbies I picked up when I moved to the US. I'm the type of person that has a lot of hobbies in general. I like doing a lot of things, whether it's on the more creative side, like painting and drawing and writing, just like making up stories. I think my creative side is pretty present, pretty big, and I truly enjoy just sitting at a table and creating a world outside of mine, whether it's on paper, through drawings, or through words. And then there is this other side that is really into more active hobbies, like, just like staying active, working out, running, and so on. The more spiritual, intellectual, creative hobbies alternate with the more physical ones, so I think there is a good balance. So it's a good healthy mix of the two. Especially with sports, the pattern kind of goes in waves where I have phases where I'm really active, and once I start, I kind of start enjoying it and feel good and I get like a rhythm. Whereas as soon as I stop, if I stop for longer, then I become this lazy person that doesn't really want to start working out again. And it takes a bit of a kick. I have to really motivate myself to get back at it. So once I moved to the US, for the longest time, there has been like this phase where I wasn't really doing much, just here and there, maybe some shorter runs. But then I finally, more recently, I started working out on a more regular basis. But let's start from the beginning. And also, there is one thing you should know about me, that again, I do have a lot of hobbies, but I'm also the kind of person that can easily get obsessed with things. So there's a distinction between things I'll always like doing and certain things that I pick up for whatever reason, get really, really into them to the point that I start investing a lot of time and energy, at times money, into that thing. So this has happened a few times ever since I moved to the US, where I picked up something and I was just like completely 100% dedicated to that one thing. When I first moved to the US, I feel like I still had to figure out so much stuff about me in the US, so a new version of me, and also so much to deal with all the paperwork and stuff that I had to take care of initially. I think to a certain extent I wasn't quite emotionally and physically ready to do much. I don't know, I was just like, I guess, working out every now and then just to because I knew it was good for me. Also, I have been a downhill skier athlete for 15 years of my life. So I started competing at age 6 until I was 21. So sports has always been a big part in my life. I suppose I've been trained and my brain has been wired in a way where sports, I need them to just function and be well. In fact, the times I don't do it is more out of laziness, but I also know that when I'm active, that's when I just feel better in general. So the first few years in the US, I wasn't quite sure. I was like maybe, going for a few runs. Also, I wasn't working, so I didn't have money, so I didn't really want to invest in a gym. So I would just like kind of do my workouts at home and go to this beautiful park that was really close to home with a beautiful, with this amazing view on the skyline of downtown Minneapolis. And that was my place of joy where I would go. Which is also the place where I got married, because that's how much I love that park. So then a few years later, right before COVID actually, a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to join Ultimate Frisbee. which she had just recently started, and she thought it was fun and she wanted someone to go to because I don't know, I think what she mentioned back then was that you know, first of all, she didn't know a lot of people, and also there were a lot of boys, but not a lot of girls, and she just thought it would have been more fun to have some girls joining. And I typically have a hard time saying no to new sports, which is good and bad, I guess, because I'm more of a shy person, especially in groups of people. To join a team sport where people are supposedly already good at it, where you have mostly boys, and yeah, you don't know anyone, you know, it's like I want to do it, but at the same time, there's this part of me that is like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for this. But anyway, I'm glad I decided to go. We were able to play for a few months, but then shortly after, I suppose, the events were no longer happening because of the pandemic. But the good thing is that I had made friends, a few friends during that time, so that with the small group of friends, we could still meet up at a park. I don't know if it was like allowed, but we would still do it. We would go, it was I think four of us, four or five. And we would go to a park and play with a disc, do drills, run around. So that was really helpful for both the physical aspect of it, but also the fact that we were still together as a group of friends, and it would feel less isolating, which was really helpful because then I had the time without the pressure of being in an actual game. I had the time to improve my skills, my throwing skills, and all the different throws. So when I went back to playing Ultimate Frisbee a little later, I felt more confident. Also, it's funny because Ultimate Frisbee, I have never heard of, never seen in Italy, so I don't know if it was me, I was just like living in my own bubble. But I don't think so, to be honest. I think that in Europe, or I will say Italy because I don't know for sure in Europe, but I think it's just not a big sport. And in fact, when I studied abroad in Germany, I remember seeing it or playing it, and I thought, this is the hardest sport ever. I just remember, this is impossible. The disc keeps falling on the ground and it's not fun. And I don't understand how you can have these two teams running after a disc. I still remember, was like really confused about the sport. Anyway, then forgot about it, and when I was reintroduced to Ultimate Frisbee in the US, it was different. And it all made way more sense, I guess, because I was playing also with people that were so good that the disc was doing just fine. And people weren't dropping it all the time. I kind of started loving playing Ultimate Frisbee, and we played a lot in the winter as well. In the cold winter in Minnesota, where the group became so small because most of people will just drop out and restart playing in the spring or in the summer. But in the winter, it's just like the few badass, I would say, the few people that are brave enough to be at really extreme cold temperatures outside and play. I still remember I would just like be completely drenched in sweat at minus, I don't know, 20 at times. Also, to be honest, temperatures, I still have a hard time converting in Fahrenheit because I always think in Celsius. So whatever number I just said, I'm not even sure if that makes sense, but really cold. And so Ultimate Frisbee, super fun. That was one of my favorites. Then when COVID hit, actually, another thing that got me in an obsessive manner was roller skating. I think it was a thing, like it became a thing. It became really big during COVID, where people would start posting videos of themselves at home doing tricks, little dance moves. So I've always skated a lot as a kid, but with the what are they called? where you have like the wheels that are in a line, roller blades. But I had never used roller skates with the four wheels. And so I was just watching all these videos after work. And obviously, when you watch videos of people that are already good at doing something, you think, oh my God, this looks so easy. I can do this too. And given that I consider myself a pretty athletic person just because I've always been active and did a lot of sports that required coordination and sliding because of skiing, or coordination because skiing, but I also played tennis for many, many years. So I don't know, I just like to pick up new sports, and typically I'm a pretty fast learner, but yeah, so I got myself a pair of skates and started practicing at home at first, and then whenever I was feeling it, I would also try to go outside. But again, as a shy person, I would feel a little self-conscious about skating outside, just in case I looked really dumb, or if I fell because I was trying a trick or something. That just kills me, and I'm just so jealous of the people that don't care, that just don't care. They go to the skate park, try all the tricks, and they just don't care. I wish I was that person. But yeah, roller skating became a thing, got all the gear. I even started, oh, that's the sport that I was gonna start, but then COVID hit, where I only did one session and then that was it because they stopped organizing events. It was, gosh, it was roller derby. So given my experience with skiing, I thought, oh, this is gonna be great. I just have to kind of become confident, comfortable with skating. But then the competitiveness of the sport, being part of a team is cool, and I miss it. So that sisterhood. So yeah, with a friend, a different friend, I went to a first lesson where, based on how you do, they kind of invite you to join the team, I believe. And so I went, and I remember just like sweating because I was so nervous to fall or even hurt myself. But at the same time, I was trying so hard, and I was really proud of myself because I would just face my fear and just try all these new things, pretending I was on skis, which on skis I would be able to do, but instead I was on skates, so the feelings are still somewhat different. But anyway, yeah, I remember just being nervous inside and sweating like crazy, but at the same time trying really hard, and in a way being proud of myself for trying. And yeah, sadly, I think that would have become a big part of my life hadn't the pandemic happened. But yeah, once these gatherings stopped from happening, I kind of just dropped roller derby, but I didn't drop skating on my own. So then I would go to parks every now and then and try little tricks, 180s, 360s. I mean, nothing crazy, but still I liked the idea of challenging myself and trying these tricks that, again, on video looked so cool, of these girls in California just like skating and pirouetting and doing all these amazing tricks. And I thought, oh, I could be that girl. It never happened. But after the pandemic, I definitely went back to playing ultimate frisbee. I guess I just love the idea of being part, well, just seeing people, even though there, as I mentioned earlier, I always had that conflict of wanting to go and challenge myself and improve, but also always feeling the worst player in the group, which is never a great feeling. But hey, you have to play if you want to improve. So, and typically most people are so nice that they will never make you feel that way. But maybe sometimes I I'm just the kind of person that doesn't want to be a burden to others, so I make the issue way bigger because I'm just concerned that people will find me so annoying that I'm ruining the game for them. But yeah, over time I got better, and that became less and less a concern. So Ultimate Frisbee was a lot of fun. What happened then in 2021, I slowly started, or not so slowly actually, because again,
that also became an obsession of mine.
I started training for a trail run ultra marathon. Had no idea that was a thing. Had heard of people running in mountains before or in trails, but never thought it was actually a sport. One day I was going through my Instagram when a friend of mine, a friend of my husband's, posted something about his first 50K 31-mile trail run. He just so beautifully described his feelings and emotions, how things went, the hard parts, the great parts, the sense of community, being out in nature. It just feels so humbling to be this person running such a long distance for the first time out in the woods, and all these feelings that he was describing. It just resonated with me so much, especially because again, as an ex skier, that was my thing. I would just like spend so many hours on the slopes training outside, surrounded by mountain peaks and beautiful sceneries. I guess I was taking that for granted as a kid because I didn't know any better. I think I was just like, focused on training. But as an adult, once I started working and being more and more indoors, I just thought, hey, if you get a chance to be outside doing something healthy for you, and enjoying nature, that really kind of spoke to my soul. So the minute I read that message, that post that he posted, that was it. I contacted a friend that I knew did something like that. So I reached out to her because she was the only person I knew was doing that kind of thing. She recommended the name of a coach. So I contacted the coach the next day and said, I typically only run 5Ks, which is pretty much a half hour or less. I want to run a 50K. And I gave myself about 9 months, 7 or 9 months. I had already picked, I believe, a race that I wanted to do. That second, Googled it, found it. And it was in Duluth, Minnesota, my state at the time. There you go. So I contacted the coach, signed up, and he would then send me a weekly workout plan for me to do. And it was like a nice mix of long runs that became longer and longer, and shorter workouts like interval trainings, uphill sprints, stuff like that, given that my go-to distance was 3 to 5Ks. From that, going to 50K, that would take me closer to the 7 hours. That was a big jump, but it was really beautiful because I had so much room for improvement. So it was really, and I had so much excitement. So I really was excited about the workouts. And I remember every Sunday night, I would just like go to my Excel file and refresh. I was just like a puppy waiting for my coach to update that Excel file with the workouts for the following week. And it was like Christmas morning every Sunday night. And I was just eager to do the workouts and to do the hard workouts, the long distances. Those numbers, they were scary. Like those new distances I had never attempted before, they were a little scary, but at the same time, I was so excited to put myself in that discomfort and to accomplish that new distance. Every time, every week the long run would become longer, and every time I would accomplish that run, that was a new record for me. Plain and simple, it was me growing, me improving, me becoming stronger, both physically but also a lot mentally. So when I would run, I would have initially so much so much chaos in my head, all the talk and just a lot of noise, because I guess I didn't know what to do with my mind when running these longer distances. And I just realized how over time it just, the noise became quieter and quieter until I was able to I don't know, just find a peace, or like a healthy dimension in my head where I would run and be, instead of lost in my thoughts and just rambling and just commenting on every single thing I would see around me, it would become more of a meditative state where I would just be quiet and acknowledge my thoughts, but without judgment. And I don't know, it was just like a gentle flow of thoughts. So all of this stuff was really exciting to me, to see that transformation. I think though, just because I'm still really into trail running to this day and I still do it a lot, and I think it's a great way for me to travel around the US, which I kind of love. I think maybe I might just dedicate a different video about trail running, because I could probably just keep talking and talking and talking, and I suppose a lot of you don't care about trail running, so I don't want to bore you too much. But yeah, I will say that definitely ever since I moved to the US, ultimate frisbee, roller skating, and now trail running have been my biggest hobbies. I kind of stopped playing ultimate frisbee, even though it's always in the back of my head. I really want to get back at it. I think it was, first of all, a great training for trail running because of the constant sprinting. But I, at some point, got too concerned, given that trail running was my new priority. I love this. And I wanted to see myself improve and get better. I started to get concerned about my knees, or hurting myself, just because there's this constant sprinting and how you call it, when you're just like changing directions so fast, so quick, that I thought, oh, what if this is not good for my running? I think I might get back at it at some point. Yeah, trail running till this day is really big in my life. Roller skating, I currently don't do quite as often, but I always have an eye on the skate parks that I see. Also now I moved to Connecticut, so I have to kind of figure out where things are. And I live in downtown, which is, people are crazy here. They really drive like crazy. So I have to find a parking lot or a place where I can do that without being concerned about people driving me over. These are the things I really enjoyed doing in the US, sports-wise. Then obviously there are other things that I did that were maybe more intellectual, let's say. Let's call it that. So yeah, I just wanted to share this because all these sports are probably sports that I don't know if I would have picked up in Italy, to be honest. I don't think so. So it's really exciting to see how one decision, being that the fact that I moved to the US, can bring so many life choices that you would have never picked for yourself if you hadn't made that first choice in the first place. And if you guys are into any of these hobbies of mine, or if you have any ideas of something that, based on what I told you about myself, if there's any sports or anything that you could see I would enjoy, I would love it if you could share that. Just because sometimes you just don't know what's out there, right? Just like I didn't know that ultimate frisbee was a thing really, and then ta-da, there it was, and I was so fully committed. Yeah, and actually another thing that I'm slowly considering maybe giving it a try is paragliding. And I think it's just so beautiful. That would be really cool. And I did look into it. There are a few schools in Connecticut, but apparently the best schools in the US are in Utah. At least that's what I read. But again, if you guys out there are into paragliding, I would love to hear more if you have any recommendations. Anyway, thank you for listening.